Thank you, Madam President. I'm joined with my colleague and friend, Rob Portman, senator from Ohio, the other senator from Ohio, to discuss the passing of a dear friend of his and of mine. I will make a few short remarks. I believe Senator Portman, who will be speaking at his memorial service, I believe later in the week in Cleveland, will offer a resolution and some comments in a resolution. This weekend, we were awakened on Sunday to learn that the state of Ohio and the city of Cleveland lost one of its champions, George Voinovich. As mayor of my beloved city, the city I call home, Cleveland, as a two-term governor of Ohio, and as my colleague for my first 4 years in the Senate before Senator Portman succeeded him, George dedicated his life to public service. A man of strong conviction, he was always willing to listen to the other side of an argument and to put what he believed was best for our state and for our country ahead of partisan politics. Of course, we didn't always agree, but we worked together in the Senate to make progress for Ohio on everything from judicial nominees to supporting our manufacturing industry to cleaning up our Great Lake, Lake Erie. When I came to the Senate in 2007, we assembled a commission of distinguished Ohio lawyers of both parties to find the candidates, again, of both parties to recommend as nominees for the federal judiciary. I thank Senator Portman. Actually, this began with Senator DeWine and Senator Voinovich, and it's now continued through Senator Voinovich, through their service to Senator Portman and me doing the same thing. George had a lifelong love affair with what he called the jewel of the Great Lakes, Lake Erie. His fight to clean up and protect our lake began when he joined the Ohio legislature almost exactly 50 years ago. At that time, people wrote Lake Erie off as a polluted, dying lake. But over the past century, people have had a habit of trying to write off Ohio. And like all of our state's champions, George wouldn't accept that. As my colleagues know, there is an enormous painting on the stairway outside the Senate depicting the American victory in the Battle of Lake Erie. George fought what he referred to as the Second Battle of Lake Erie, pushing for the first Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement, co-chairing the Senate's Great Lakes Task Force, working with me to introduce the Clean Water Affordability Act, which I've continued to work on since his retirement in December of 2010. That tenacity paid off. Our lake has made an incredible comeback. We've still got work to do. Every summer we have to deal with the return of toxic algae blooms. And Senator Portman and I have worked on that issue in the western basin of Lake Erie near Toledo. But because of the work and investment by people like George, he was able to catch yellow perch not far from his own backyard in Collinwood, a section on the east side on the lake on the east side of Cleveland. It will be up to all of us who love Lake Erie and who understand how vital it is to our state to continue that work for our Great Lake. George was the son of Serbian and Slovenian immigrants, and he understood the importance of investing in our nation, investing in public works that create jobs and power our communities and our economy. In retirement, George Voinovich continued to push for ways to finance our nation's infrastructure. Just this year, he reached out to his friend, Senator Carper from Delaware, and to me about the need for dedicated public works funding. He was willing to reach across the aisle to work with us on projects like the Brent Spence Bridge, which we still need to rebuild, and loan guarantees and tax incentives for Ohio's manufacturers and small business. He was a deeply religious man. He was guided by his faith through nearly half a century in public service. That faith sustained him through the worst tragedy that any parent can imagine when his 9-year-old daughter, Molly, was killed during George Voinovich's first campaign for mayor of Cleveland. He said of that experience later, when one loses a child, things come into focus. What's important, what's unimportant. You see more, you feel more, you experience more. We all take so much for granted. I hope we'll take George's passing as an opportunity to reflect on what we take for granted and what's important to us as a country. On behalf of everyone in this body, I send my deepest condolences to Janet Voinovich, to her children, to George's children, to everyone touched by his life and, frankly, her life of public service. His legacy will live on through the lasting contributions he made to his beloved Cleveland, to Ohio, and to our great country. Thank you, Madam President. I yield to my friend from Ohio.